end. The next thing that he's going to go over, I do want you to have an open mind, open heart on this. I do want to emphasize branding and accessibility as really important things for both iGov and then the federal level. Now, as we've said, it is 2.1 accessible at the new experience. However, we are still human. People might forget to do the alt text. They might forget to they might have changed the formatting. It might not be very appealing, or maybe they did change something that doesn't fit the branding or good plain language. Those are things that you will learn, right? Like there's things that some of you already are really heavily doing that already in other platforms. So I just wanted to let you know like the why. And then the approval process, the sense of the word approve is the sense of we're not the data owners. And so we want to make sure that the agency owner, the designated approver, is aware of this particular platform. Now, when he does demonstrate this review process and approval process, I am not saying in any shape or form that if agency A, agency B, agency C, I don't know your guys' internal process. So if you have an internal IT intake, please follow that. This is not a replacement of that at this time. So if agency A has a normal internal intake process, please follow that. There's things that need to be addressed internally before you build something in Qualtrics. And again, I don't know every agency's internal process, but I just want to be very clear. This is not taking place of that. This is just one to make sure that you have a really good form before you hit publish. And then also just to make sure that agencies have awareness of this form, because we have to think of all things. And the other thing I want you to hear my heart, I know a lot of you don't know me personally, but if you do, you know this comes from my heart, is that we're not trying to slow things down. Absolutely do not want to do that. Like that is not on my heart at all. So I just want to let you know, like, this is just to improve and make sure that we've got all our checks and balances done. So, and last thing I want to say is this is very evergreen. And so just be aware, like this is still a work in progress, but it is the overall goal is this, and this has been discussed numerous times with the Center of Excellence team to make sure that we are all checking all our T's and I's and all that stuff. So just to set the stage and just to hear from my heart where we're at with this. And I know this is going to be a little bit of an adjustment, but I think overall it will produce great surveys and forms for the state. So with that, Hunter is going to just walk through the overall concept of what's going to take place. So Hunter, you're back at it again.
Back to the Capitol building application form. You guys saw when I hit publish, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to make a change. I'm going to add a space there. When I hit publish, here's that expert review. I had to select an approver. When it says approver, typically this just goes to somebody at Qualtrics. They look at it, they hit approve. You guys are doing something that is kind of novel to Qualtrics, and we're really excited about it. Our leadership's excited about it as well, where we're actually kicking off an approval process, a formal approval process. We're excited about this because it's going to ensure, like Jessica said, that your surveys are accessible, that your surveys look good. And this is something that some states struggle with, where people just send off a survey and their leadership doesn't know about it. And so this is a great way to really make the most out of Qualtrics. And so you'll be selecting Jessica. Jessica will be the only option here, even though Jessica is not the only approver looking at this. More than anything, it's going to be your agency leader who has to sign off on this. And so this is just to kick off the process, right? So I'll hit request approval on that. Since I already did it earlier, I'm not going to do it again, since all I did was add a space. But that will send an email. So first, what it's going to do is it'll send a ticket to Jessica. So we already talked about the ticketing process. You already have an idea of what that looks like. Sends a ticket to Jessica along with anybody who's involved in the approval process. So somebody who might be looking at methodology, looking at things like, do you have double-barreled questions? Do you have too many questions? Are you asking confusing questions? Things like that. That's all methodology. You'll have somebody looking at the accessibility of it. Like Jessica said, do you have alt text for your images? Is your survey accessible? Is it mobile friendly? Are people going to be able to take this survey with screen readers? Things like that. And then we have our data security. And so data security will be things like, are you collecting any sort of sensitive data? If so, do we have the right things in place so that by default, we redact a lot of sensitive data. So if Qualtrics identifies a social security number, it'll redact it, and that data is no longer usable. That piece of data, that social security number, it'll just be replaced with X's. So if you're trying to collect a social security number and it's something that you need, then we need to make adjustments and exceptions for your survey. That's just one example. There might be other things that we might need to unredact. So we'll look at data privacy, make sure that we're checking the right boxes. We're also going to look at survey ownership. When you build a survey, you own the survey. But a lot of times you're going to be building things that are more programmatic, things that might outlive your employment. So if you win the lottery, we might still need to have that survey out there launched for constituents. If it's just a one-time survey, then it might not be programmatic and it can probably still live in your account. But if it is programmatic, we want that to live in a service account for your agency. So your agency can continue to access that survey. Once it does live in a service account, that doesn't mean that you will no longer have access to it. That review committee will determine who should have access to it and what level of access. So maybe you just have access to the survey building, but not any of the data. Or maybe it's vice versa. Maybe you have access to the data, but not the survey builder. And so we have a lot of levers that we can pull, and this approver team, this review team will take care of that. But most important is going to be your agency approval. Because again, it's your agency that's going to own the data ultimately. They should be doing what they want with the data, and we need the green light from them. So that's what's happening when you hit approve. It's creating a ticket with Jessica and that approver team and your agency representative to all look at your survey. It will send them a preview link. So this is a preview link. When I preview the survey, you can see it gives me a mobile version over here. Again, this is so we can make sure that we're being accessible and that it looks like it's supposed to look on a phone, because most surveys are taken on phones these days. We don't realize it because we're building it on a computer typically. But essentially, I can share this preview link. I can say, okay, only people with a Qualtrics account can see this, or I can make this public. This isn't sharing any data. This is just sharing the actual survey questions. So it's not, that's what it's sharing, not your collected data. But it will share this brand internal link with Jessica and the review team so that they can look at your survey, make sure that it looks good. So that's what the preview link is. The second thing that happens after creating a ticket while they're working on that, trying to get it approved, is it will send you an email. So I'm going to go to my email over here. And when I hit request to publish a survey, I got this email from Jessica. Hi, Hunter. Look, it piped in my name. That's Pipe Text in Action. To have the project listed below reviewed and approved, please complete the survey provided. And we have another survey. We're at Qualtrics, so we love surveys. Has the name of my survey piped in that. Gives me the preview link that I just showed you. Gives me the survey ID. Every survey has a specific ID, and it can actually be found in the URL. It's this SV_ thing. And so that we know what survey we're talking about. We can identify that survey based on the ID. Just gives me some information, everything that we've explained to you. And then I'm going to go into this approval survey, and we're building this, so bear with me. But it's going to ask me some very important questions. So first of all, a launch date. When do I want to have this launched? If I'm saying tomorrow, that's probably not good. Usually we want to get these things approved with plenty of time so that the review team can take a look at it and you can get your survey launched. So I'll collect my my launch date. There's a calendar question for you. Did you receive approval from your agency leaders prior to submitting this project? You should hopefully be clicking on yes. And so who approved this project? Governor Reynolds. How is the project approved? She said I could. Obviously, you're going to be putting more robust information in here. That's probably not going to pass, but for the sake of the demo, I'll say next. Which platform features are necessary for your project? The review team wants to know this so that we know where to look. So I am doing a survey, so I'll definitely select survey building. I don't need to import or export data, but I do need a change to the look and feel because I want a different logo on there to match my agency a little bit better. And so maybe I'm going to click on that. I do have translations, so I want them to take a look at that. I didn't use library materials. Let's say I do want to use TextIQ. I do want a dashboard and other things. And let's say I skipped ticketing and workflows. So I'm doing my listen and my understand because I have a dashboard, but I don't have any ticketing. So when I hit next, I get this message. I haven't selected ticketing or any sort of closed loop system. So I'm not doing any action with my form. That might be okay in some cases, but for the majority of cases, we do want some sort of closed loop system so that we can ensure that we're serving our constituents in the best way possible. We want some sort of action that's happening because of this. Otherwise, it's just a form that's going into cyberspace and nothing happens with it. There are cases where maybe that's appropriate, but in this case, I'm going to say, oh, I haven't selected ticketing. Okay, let me go back and I'll go select ticketing. I do need a ticketing process with this. So I'll hit next. Enter the email addresses of all individuals who should be members of the ticketing team. So I'm going to add myself here. And then I'm going to add Brooke here. I won't add Jade. Jade doesn't have to deal with tickets, but I could add any emails I want here. And then provide any additionals regarding the ticket system request. Oops, I haven't built it yet. Even though I actually did for this survey. I'll need help with that. And then the requester team might say, well, take a stab at it and then we'll approve it because it's just a workflow and you'll have training on that. So by the time you're filling this out, you will know how to build a ticketing system. I'll hit next. Okay, how will the form be distributed? We talked about query strings a little bit, but I have a link in there. So if you want to learn more about query strings, you can click on that. And it'll open up the help page on there. Anonymous link, email distribution inside Qualtrics or outside of Qualtrics. Let's say I do an anonymous link with query strings. Do you plan to publish this anonymous link on the State of Iowa website? This is going to be very common. There's a lot of government forms that are on the website. If I click yes, we'll just ask you to put where. We'll need something more specific than the homepage. I don't think they're going to let you put it on the homepage unless it's a really important survey. Okay, security overview. In your own words, please describe any sensitive data you believe may be collected in your survey. I want social security number and bank account numbers. Be more robust than this. I am doing a demo, and all these you should be more robust and more well-rounded answers, describing what your security process will look like and what your agency leaders have told you. As far as the security goes, this is going to be very, very important. And then next, listen, understand, act. We're going to be asking questions just to ensure that we are being strategic about the survey. So what and how are you trying to capture the data? So I might put constituent data, CX data via a survey. Add more information here too. How do you plan to determine the why behind the data? I have a dashboard that looks at an analysis of Q1, Q2, etc. Right? So I'm going to add very specific information here. This will trigger a workflow that creates a ticket so that my team can respond to all negative feedback. So I might put how, like, do I have a filter in there? Do I have some sort of a decision task in there that only triggers a ticket if it's negative feedback? So what your act is going to be. Again, the reason for this is because we want to be strategic about this. All growing up, I've never been a big believer in busy work, And I can assure you this is not busy work. This is because we want to be strategic. The more strategic we are with the surveys, the more value you're going to get out of it. And the more the review team will be able to help you with different ideas like, hey, have you thought about setting up this API to automate this process? And so please be specific and very thorough in these answers. Jessica, do you have anything you want to add for listen, understand, act?
I think I want to give a little more context in the why. Like, I understand, like, right, I am totally against busy work. I am totally against that. But also put my hat on for a second. We're going to be looking for the rate of investment on this tool, this platform as well, right? Executive leadership is going to know, how did we improve efficiency, right? How did we make things better? You could say you create a survey, but then I'm going to have to go back and look at all that. Now, this is all about my busy work, but you also know, a lot of you are in the same predicament I am. You have to present reporting to executive leadership on what your particular product, your business unit is as well. This is really no different. This is just also things that you could take this exact concept and saying, hey, this is the report. This is what I'm doing. This is what's going to help your particular problem statement. And this is also how you're going to do it. So I'm not looking for, you're already going to have to present this to some degree to your leadership. I want to build this X, Y, Z. And this is, I'm going to listen to them. I'm going to understand them, and I'm going to act. And you have that already written up more than likely when you present this concept, this idea. So I am far from anyone that wants to do double work, but I think you can kind of see big picture why this is important. Again, I'm trying to give you the why versus a have to. So if that makes sense as well. So just a little bit more in depth of the why. So you can keep going, Hunter. Thank you.
And like Jessica has said, and Natalie came up with this term, it's an evergreen process. I just thought of something just now. Maybe at the end of the survey, I can say, hey, send me these results so that you have that write-up saved to your email. So you have an email with it, so you're not doing double work in case you need to present this again. So yeah, we love feedback. That was my own feedback for myself, but this is the end of it. So I'll hit submit, and my answers are going to be coupled with that ticket data. So that survey that I just filled out is essentially supplementing it. Just another cool thing we can do with Qualtrics, we can make connections, we can connect a survey response to a ticket, we can connect it to a contact piece of contact data. There's a lot we can do in Qualtrics. So we wanted to show you the art of the possible. I think this approval process is a good example of something that you could do within Qualtrics. We used all of our own tools. What's the saying? We drink our own Kool-Aid. I don't think that's the saying I'm looking for, but we use our own product. So we're excited about this approval process. We think it's going to make it easier for everybody and make your surveys excellent. I think that's all I have on the approval process. Jessica, unless there's anything else you'd like me to cover, I might turn it over to either you or Jade at some point to talk about resources.
The only thing is that, like, once it's submitted and that's done, we will have open office hours, because again, our goal is never to hold it up. So if we've got a blocker, we're going back and forth, we're not quite understanding, we will have office hours twice a week. So you can just come in, ask your questions, get through those blockers. Like, what are we missing? How can we help you with X, Y, and Z? So again, support will be in place. And so that is that as well. And then I think and then they would go then finally to the approver of the agency. And we'll talk more about that particular step next, but like that is another piece of the puzzle that, again, we're just the reviewers and making sure we got the infrastructure set up correctly to make sure we're compliant. And then last thing is then your agency will finally approve it. And we'll talk more about that next steps.